Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Business Intelligence Friday. Today, we're going to be talking about a call that I received yesterday, actually, from a customer. And it's something I've run across before, but I never really knew how to articulate it because it's kind of a strange behavior that you'll see. And that's related to cubes inside of Excel. And when you add filters to those cubes, they behave differently depending on where you do the filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Excel. So just give me a second here. We'll hop on over to Excel, and in here I'm going to connect to a cube. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to one of our general ledger cubes, and you all have seen this one many times before, but let's find the one on my laptop here. So we're going to do general ledger summary cube, and we'll do this one here. Open it up. When I open up that cube, right now I don't have anything on it. I'm going to go ahead and add just a general amount into this. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a specific maybe year or something like that, just to get it filtered down a little bit. And we'll put that up actually put that up there. Now, when I added that year in, it's showing me the amount. And if I wanted to add, let's say, companies to this list, I've got a list of companies and their amounts. And you'll see I've got different values here. The call that came in yesterday was the customer had their chart of accounts down below on the rows below the companies and expanded out that chart of accounts. So they had, some have gross profit, assets, liabilities, different things. What they had done is they went into the rows here for the chart and they said, I want to filter on, in their case, they filtered on net income. But if I go under assets and I say under master, I want net income. My intent here by doing that is I would only want to see the rows or the data that have net income as part of it. But when I say okay, you'll notice here that there's some that don't have net income. Now it's still showing the level above that too of master. These don't have any net income, but they're still showing up here. And so in their case, they had all kinds of data that was showing up and down the chain across that. And the reason for that is if I look at this filter, what this is doing is showing everything down to net income and it's there. So like in their case, they had some assets and liabilities, so that you were seeing totals for assets and liabilities, even though net income wasn't there. So not exactly right. Now, if you switch this up and instead what you do is you put the filter up at, let's say the up here in the filter area, now all of a sudden, instead of seeing all the rows that are there, we're seeing just net income that's there for that company, and the other ones disappear. So only the items that had net income will show up. Now I can put like the account value and so forth down below there, but it's still only going to include the rows that had actual related to net income at that point. So by putting the filter down on the rows, it's still going to show everything down to that point in the filter, versus when you filter it up above, it's going to filter it all the rows that make that up, and you will only see rows down below that have that. Now, some other additional advanced filtering that you will see in here, if I do pivot table properties, so once clicking in there and doing pivot table, you're going to find under the totals and filters area some options, whether or not to include filtered items in the totals, include filtered items in set totals, and so forth. Now, the behavior of these will vary a little bit depending on the version of SQL Server or analysis services in this case that you have. And that's related to visual totals. Some of them it allows and doesn't. So for example, if I go ahead, I'm going to hit cancel here and remove this account. Right now I've got my view as you see here, but if I do pivot table properties or options, I should say, and I set this checkbox here, include filter items and totals. If I say okay, my total in my case isn't going to change. But if I had some things I had filtered out, this grand total would still include that. And you would see that down below here, but you'll notice the little asterisk it puts there. So you do have some options around controlling the grand totals and the subtotals and so forth that way. So keep that in mind. But the real point that I wanted to make in today's video is just be careful that if you're filtering on the rows or if you're filtering up above, you might get different experience. So if you truly want to filter all the rows of data that are being presented down below, I would suggest keeping the filters up in the filter area. In essence, that's saying filter my whole view by this versus down on the rows, it's more of a presentation aspect to that, and it will only filter down to that point. So hopefully you found today's episode helpful. Like I said, kind of a difficult thing to explain because it's a subtle difference. But moral of the story, if you want to filter all your rows, do it up above in the filter section and not down in the rows. Whereas the rows and columns are more presentation related. So if you found today's session helpful, feel free to suggest some other sessions for us. And as we get some things that come in over time, we will present those each week. Send those to info@dashboardgear.com. And until next time, good luck on your business intelligence endeavors.